In Russia, defense authorities reported the capture of Ukrainian strongholds in Zaporozhye. In Algeria, 26th extraordinary ministerial meeting of the Forum of Gas Exporting Countries takes place. And in Cuba, citizens rallied in support of Palestine and demanded an end to the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Panama, workers denounced shortcomings in the education system in the run-up to start of school activities. Unions warn in a statement that more than 3,000 educational centers in the country are not ready to open their doors due to security and infrastructure conditions, in addition to the lack of teachers and increase in school enrollment in the public education system as a result of the migration of students from private schools. This and the inflationary crisis put at risk the access to education of more than 10,000 students. In Venezuela, the National Registry of Artists of the Great Mission Viva Venezuela Mi Patria Querida continues. Artists from different municipalities nationwide gather in the Bolivar squares of the states of the country to participate in the Great Day of Registration, which will be held until April 20th. In the midst of joy and union, they expressed their gratitude to President Nicolas Maduro and Commander Hugo Chavez for vindicating the cultural identity of Venezuela. In addition, they invite all those who perform any artistic, artisanal, or cultural expression to register to exalt the Venezuelan tradition. In Mexico on Friday, the presidential candidate for the ruling Morena party, Claudia Sheinbaum, kicked off her 2024 campaign in Mexico City's Zócalo Square. She vowed to continue the legacy of incumbent President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Sheinbaum starts her campaign ahead on the polls with 51.6% of voting intention. She said next June Mexicans will be choosing between two alternatives to continue a path of transformation or to return to corruption. She went over some of her campaign promises, which include turning Mexico into a fair, honest, free, participatory, and responsible country, advocating fraternity and promoting education, humanism, and science, and improving the health system, salaries, and strengthening the justice system, also promoting culture and access to housing. The Honduran government presented proposals for defense, independence, and sovereignty of the peoples in the framework of the 8th Summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. Honduran President Xiomara Castro, during the summit held in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, assumed the pro-tempore presidency of the regional bloc and presented several proposals to carry out the Patria Grande project. The head of state proposed that the organization should continue the struggle to achieve the end of the blockade and the unilateral measures imposed by the United States against Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. She also proposed to accompany Argentina in its claim for the Malvinas Islands and to promote an open discussion of the political and territorial situation of Puerto Rico. The president affirmed that these projects are based on the dream of independence heroes such as Simón Bolívar, José Martí, and Francisco Morazán. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In Russia, defense authorities say stormtroopers managed to capture Ukrainian strongholds in Zaporozhye. According to a statement issued by the Defense Ministry on Saturday, Russian paratroopers seized strongholds of the Ukrainian army near Verbovoi. According to the statement, during the assault, paratroopers were supported by aviation fire. The Russian Defense Ministry said that the Ukrainian army was unable to rebuke the attack, and after the enemy positions were surrendered, several Ukrainian soldiers were captured. Zaporozhye Governor Yevgeny Balitsky said that the Russian troops have a clear artillery advantage in the region. Meanwhile, in Crimea, police have confirmed that they deactivated a homemade explosive placed in a car headed to a checkpoint in Kherson, in the north of the peninsula. According to the authorities, the device components were of foreign manufacture supplied to Ukraine by the NATO member countries. At the moment, police are investigating and conducting raids to determine the circumstances and the identity of those responsible. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov gave a press conference at the end of his visit to Turkey, describing as blatant self-exposure a recording of confidential army talks on the Ukraine conflict.
This is a blatant self-exposure. This is a self-denunciation in the military field of a level comparable to that in the political field when Merkel, Holland, and Poroshenko admitted that no one was going to implement the Minsk agreements. The situation clearly indicates that the war camp in Europe is still very, very strong. The latest statements by both French President Emmanuel Macron and US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and the conversation between German generals still indicate that the war party does not want to change its course at all and wants to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia on the battlefield, and we acknowledge that.
The Russian foreign minister also said Moscow will act accordingly to face challenges that may appear as Sweden is on track to join NATO following Finland, who became its member in 2023.
The conclusion that we made regarding our security is that we have already made organizational decisions, created the Moscow Military District and the Leningrad Military District. Additional weapons will be deployed there that will be adequate to the challenges that may appear on the territory of Finland and Sweden.
The Antalya Diplomacy Forum continues in Turkey, where the second day's debate will focus on the development of science and technology. The third edition of the forum continues with the participation of delegations from 147 countries to debate on diplomacy in times of crisis. As part of the agenda, talks are held with the participation of prominent figures such as the first Turkish astronaut Alper Gezeravci and the Turkish Vice President Cevdet Yilmaz, who participate in the roundtable on international trade, connectivity and interdependence. There is also a high-level session on women, peace and security with the leadership of the First Lady of Turkey, Emin Erdogan. In Algeria, the 26th extraordinary ministerial meeting of the Forum of Gas Exporting Countries takes place. It is expected that during the summit, the representative of the forum will sign memorandums of understanding with the Energy Commission of the African Union and the Economic Research Institute for Asian and East Asia. This Forum of Gas Exporting Countries is taking place in the midst of regional and international tensions that affect the hydrocarbons market. In this regard, the Venezuelan oil minister Pedro Tellechea suggested that consideration be given to turning the forum into an organization that contributes to the stability of the world energy market.
From Venezuela, we promote and focus the political will of the forum members to become an international organization with greater influence on the balance and valuation of gas at the energy market level.
In Zimbabwe, the government suspended a presidential activity on renewable energy due to a threat of a terrorist attack in the province of Matabeleland. An airline located in the city of Victoria Falls alerted the authorities about a bomb threat directed to the country's airports, causing the immediate activation of the country's security systems alarms. At the same time, investigations were initiated to determine the origin and credibility of the warning, while the General Director of Civil Aviation confirmed the temporary and preventive closure of all air terminals in the country. UN Refugee Agency reinforced its support in Mozambique following the increase of violence and attacks by armed groups in the north of the country. According to the agency, the tensions in the province of Cape Delgado caused in the last few weeks the displacement of more than 70,000 people who fled their homes to the south. The rampant destruction of residential areas, schools and other important facilities affected more than 56,000 people, while another 33,000 are taking refuge in the state of Nampula. UNHCR warned that more than half of the displaced are the vulnerable population, such as children, women, disabled people, and elderly. We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Punctual break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. The World Health Organization denounced the health crisis in the Gaza Strip amidst persistent Israeli bombardment and once again called for a ceasefire in the territory. Experts from the health agency managed to enter Al-Shifa hospital this Saturday after a month of failed attempts due to the occupation forces' obstructions, which shot at anyone who entered or left the medical facility. Director General of the agency, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, detailed that 19,000 liters of fuel, vital medical supplies, and treatments for children suffering from severe acute malnutrition were delivered. Volunteer health workers also entered the site to assist in the care of patients. However, they say that services are very limited as the situation is quite critical. Palestinian authorities reported the killing of a young man by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank. According to local media, the victim is a 16-year-old teenager who was shot in the head during an Israeli raid on the village of Kfar Nima in central West Bank. The Israeli military also raided on Saturday the village of Deir Gaza, located northwest of the city. Occupation forces also entered the northern city of Nablus, one of the main strongholds of the Palestinian militias, and the village of Al-Samu, south of Hebron, where they arrested at least 4 people after searching numerous homes. In Egypt, some 42,000 Palestinians who entered the country from Gaza received medical care in national hospitals. According to Egyptian health authorities, of those 42,000 Palestinians, more than 3,000 remain in Egyptian medical centers, since the seriousness of their injuries required them to stay in hospitals for a long time, requiring specialized treatment. To this must be added another 1,000 transferred to other countries. The health ministry detailed that 60% of the total number of admissions are women and minors. It also called on the international community to exert more pressure on Israel to force it to allow more medical aid to enter the Gaza Strip. In Cuba, citizens rallied in support of Palestine and demanded an end to the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. President Miguel Díaz-Canel led the main demonstration organized by several social movements in response to the escalation of the Israeli aggression against the city of Rafah. The Cuban people marched from the provincial capitals, including Havana, where they raised their voices for the citizens in the Gaza Strip. President Miguel Díaz-Canel assured that Cuba will never be indifferent to the Israeli genocidal crimes against Palestine.
Millions of reasons will always shine through to continue the struggle. To run, to walk, to cry, to embrace, to love, to suffer, to help, to cry out. In life there are many verbs. I am simply Palestine. My verb is to fight. Long live free Palestine. Long live Gaza.
During the event, the participants expressed their support for the Palestinian people and insisted on the need to end the genocide that Israel carries out against the nation.
The Cuban people, forced in resistance, have the imperious need to join in all of the just causes. Today we are searching for peace, harmony, and justice, and a better world for all. This world is the ship where all humanity travels, and we have the responsibility to create the basis of coexistence, respecting the rights of all human beings. It shall be the will of the man of these times to gain civic and social awareness, to defend individuals from anything that may hinder their rights, from anything that may take away their rights and deprives them of the will to grow and forge a fair and prosperous nation. The Cuban people has always been sympathetic, and we cannot turn our backs on a people who's suffering a genocide of such a magnitude. This is a situation in which we can all find ourselves one day. I have often wondered what would happen if I were to wake up and find my people like this. It is a suffering that we young people also feel, and that is why we are here in this struggle. It is impossible to be indifferent to what is happening, to ignore this is a genocide and not accuse those who are committing this massacre. We must stop the war. We must stop it once and for all. We want peace and justice. We want the Palestinians to have the right to live in their land and to live in peace. The Cuban people, forced in resistance, have the imperious need to join in all of the just causes. Today we are searching for peace, harmony, and justice, and a better world for all.
In Venezuela, citizens and political leaders joined their voices expressing support for the Palestinian people with a mobilization in January 23rd parish. Under the slogan Long Live Free Palestine, social, popular, and political organizations gather in the commune of El Panal 2021 to rally and support the Palestinian people. Protesters demand the end of the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip and denounce the complicity of the United States in the violent Israeli actions. This mobilization takes place in the framework of an action called at a global level in the context of the internationalist virtual caravan, the World March for Palestine.
Nos encontramos en la comuna El Panal 2021. Todos los movimientos sociales.
We are in the community El Panal 2021, all the social movements of the Western Caracas. We are here in the heart of Caracas neighborhoods, denouncing since yesterday. We are mobilized with a call that we made yesterday at 7 p.m., asking for the end of the genocide that the invading army of Israel is perpetrating in the Palestinian territory. We denounce that this systematic massacre of the Palestinian people for more than 70 years, it is not a war, it is a massacre. We emphasize that the thousands of people killed are mostly women and children. We emphasize that the Palestinian territory has no army. It is not a war, it is a massacre.
The Executive Secretary of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Americas and the People's Trade Treaty, Jorge Arriaza, rejected the ongoing resurgence of fascism and the Holocaust.
We reject fascism and Nazism, but we also have to reject this Holocaust in real time. Latin America is speaking out. We will continue in the streets exerting pressure so that the institutions and the great powers of the world take action and put an end to such painful events that make us cry in our homes.
Jorge Arriaza called on the United Nations to put pressure on the elites to put an end to the genocide in Gaza, which dates back to over 70 years.
We call on the United Nations and the ruling elites of the United States to put an end to this barbarism. Public opinion around the world, even within the United States and even within Israel, rejects the atrocities that are being committed over and over. Therefore, we must remain on the streets. We must continue exerting pressure until we achieve our objective, to put an end to this situation which did not start on October 7th, but 76 years ago, the continued siege of the people of Palestine.
Also in Italy, citizens mobilized in support of Palestinian people. The demonstration was called by students and pro-Palestinian groups. They are taking place in several cities of the country, among them Pisa, Rome, Milan, and Turin. Demonstrators demand the end of hostilities against the Palestinian people and ask the Italian government to intervene in order to force the Tel Aviv regime to stop the genocide in Palestine. Demonstrators also express their support for the students of Pisa who were assaulted on February 23rd by the political forces in front of the United States consulate and ask for an investigation of the public prosecutor's office in this regard. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.